Okay, Mr. Minister, Jerry from HDS. First, we understand you just came from overseas and government business, and there's a lot of talk has been going around about this whole CIP. I know the Prime Minister has addressed it, but from the Minister responsible, can you just tell us exactly what is happening and what is the issues?
I thought you know about jazz. I was about to start off on a jazz vibe, but anyway. Well, a lot has been said, and there's a lot to talk about. I mean, let me see where I can start off. First of all, I read that the Prime Minister did not take me to Brussels, and you know, he's probably, somebody called me and said that they're not approving of me as minister, whatnot. I would have loved the Prime Minister to take me everywhere he goes, but of course that's not how government functions, and the Prime Minister and I have never traveled together for obvious reasons. So the Prime Minister went to Brussels to attend meetings, and instead I went to Dubai to address the Investment Migration Forum, where I made a presentation on the Citizenship by Investment Program to deal with St. Lucia's CIP, and of course to comment on some of the ongoing issues. You know, the question that has been asked over and over is why we did not sign the MOA, and the Prime Minister has addressed that issue, and I addressed it in Dubai, and I think my attaché will share with you the address that I delivered there, so you will see a comprehensive statement on it. But our position remains very clear, that St. Lucia, we believe, has the best structure, the best managed CIP in the region, and of course, we, not us alone, thinks that, but other agencies rating CIPs rated St. Lucia very highly, which tells you about the confidence the international community has in our CIP. And that the provisions of the MOA, like we said, we support them. Our legislation of 2015, which established the CIP in St. Lucia, actually went further than the MOA and what it provides for. We differed on one issue, which was the immediate increase of the price to 200,000 K. Now, we were prepared to sign the agreement, but we said we wanted a grandfather clause, which said allow us to run our contracts, and then the price would come into effect once those contracts ended. But the collective thought it was best that everybody, that St. Lucia signs immediately. So we said, look, we're not going to do that. Why we were not going to do it? Because the other islands have had an opportunity over the years to build numerous housing developments, to build schools, hospitals, health centers, community centers. They've been able to do it with their CIP. We've never done it in the past. This is the first time we've reached a point where we've introduced a new option, an infrastructure option. And we have signed agreements for 2 housing developments and for national infrastructural program. And we are also in discussion with a number of other investors who want to invest in the infrastructure of the country and the CIP. And we said, but wait, we're not going to start benefiting in a dramatic way. Why should we give it up? We're prepared to give it up, but not immediately. So give us a grandfather clause for what we've already signed. We can forego what we've not yet signed. But what we have already signed, we want to implement it. You've had a chance to implement it. Now, St. Lucia's national interest is our national interest, and we are elected as a government to protect the national interest of St. Lucia. And we are very clear in our minds that we are going to protect the national interest of St. Lucia. And that's our position. Now, the leader of opposition obviously cannot be happy when he hears such news. Can you imagine you in opposition, you hear the government is about to announce 2 housing projects, a national road rehabilitation reconstruction project. Can you imagine community centers being built, playing fields getting upgraded, all those things under a national infrastructure program? As an opposition, you cannot be happy. I don't agree with what they're doing, but I can understand why they're getting so nervous and so aggressive to attack the CIP, because the success of the program will make it more difficult for them. So I can understand why the opposition is behaving the way it is behaving. But we are very clear that our role is to protect the national interests, and we will protect the national interests. And tomorrow, when the Prime Minister delivers his budget statement, he will be making a comprehensive statement of all that is going to happen in the country in the next year. and beyond as it relates to the infrastructural development of this country. And I invite all St. Lucians to listen to the budget statement tomorrow, because it will be one of the most exciting budget statements ever delivered. So that's that. There is that unease on the part of the opposition, and I expect them to say a lot, and to say a lot, and to say a lot. But we're going to continue to stay focused and do the work that we have to do. St. Lucia prides itself for its robust and rigid due diligence process. And since 2021, when we came into government, we've actually strengthened it. The number of due diligence officers have increased significantly. The number of verification officers have increased significantly. In fact, it has grown so much, we've had to move out of the offices we had because it was too small. We could not employ all the staff in the same small offices we had. So we've moved on to larger offices because we have strengthened the capacity of the CIP. And the Prime Minister went to Brussels, and like he said, it was made very clear to him that there is no issue with St. Lucia. There's no reason for St. Lucia to be worried, because the opposition keeps saying we'll be losing visa-free access. They hope we will lose visa-free access for their own selfish reasons. But there's no reason for St. Lucia to be worried of losing visa-free access. I will also say we have to be conscious of the concerns of the European Union, that they are concerned, not the European Union alone, the US and the UK, they are concerned that there might be abuses of the program. And what we've said to them is, let's work together, let's make sure we do constant reviews and to make sure that there are no abuses. And St. Lucia is fully open to that. We have no difficulty in doing that because we understand their concerns and they have to understand our aspirations. And then let's move forward. Then there was talk about some gentleman who, and I heard the opposition saying we were summoned to Washington and think, well, just think about it. And I want you to really think about it. If a gentleman has an issue with the CIP or he has an issue with any player, he can write a polite letter to the Prime Minister or to myself and say to us, I have X, Y, and Z concerns, and I would wish you to have a meeting with me in Washington. He doesn't have to put it in a press release. I mean, that's why I saw it in a press release. I mean, if you want us to take you seriously and what you're saying there has serious intent, then write to us, or ask your lawyers to write to us. That's how it's done. But when you read the statement, he has no issue with St. Lucia. It's an issue the gentleman has with St. Kitts, an issue with the former Prime Minister of St. Kitts, the former head of the unit in St. Kitts, and the developer in St. Kitts. He has no issue with St. Lucia. Now, we're not going to fight his battle for him, clearly, because he wants us to take on the developer because he believes they use wrongful practices in relation to him in St. Kitts. Now, that's not our issue. That's not our interest. But like I said, if he wants to engage us, if he wants to have a discussion with us on his challenges he had in St. Kitts, he can write to us either directly or through his lawyers, and we can always have a discussion. But like I said, his issue is not with us. We've never had any engagement with the gentleman since July 2021 when we came into power. So, but from reading his document, his issue is with St. Kitts and persons in St. Kitts. And, like I said, the best way to engage us is to have a proper, exchange, and for us to have a discussion. So the opposition, again, is saying a lot that we were summoned to Washington. I never got anybody summoning me to Washington or the Prime Minister. I would love to visit Washington, I can tell you. It's a very nice time of the year to be in Washington. But certainly we were not summoned by any stretch of the imagination. And if the gentleman should call me, or if he should write to me, I will say to him his issue. And again, what is really happening is that those people, the former Prime Minister and Galaxy, sued him for the things he said. Sued him. And he's been collecting evidence to prove what he said about them is true. So he has his legal battles with them. And I think they should fight out their legal battles in the court of law. But it's been playing out in the media, and the opposition is making a lot of noise about it. But we are accustomed of those tactics by the opposition. That's how the opposition operates. It has happened over the years. That's exactly how they operate. make a lot of noise, say a lot of things, accuse a lot of people, and just keep on repeating it. I even read one yesterday. I was returning home yesterday, that I was on a 1-week secret trip to London. And I was saying, but seriously, all over the internet, all over Instagram, Facebook, are pictures of me in Dubai, shelter in the rain, escaping the floods, delivering my address. And then I return home and I'm seeing, I was on a secret trip in London. But as the opposition for you, they just keep saying things, wrong things, misinformation, disinformation. And they say it shamelessly, just keep saying it. And sooner or later, some people will start believing it. But I know after tomorrow's budget statement, a lot of them will be shocked by what they would hear.
This one matter to clarify.
I think.
We know that the Henley and Partners is a reputable firm, and like statement said, it was the former administration who hired them. There was some debacle in the upper house between the senators. Why would you think that they wouldn't verify that report? What is it that prevents them from accepting it?
They don't want St. Lucia to look good. Let me tell you, and don't doubt it, Let me tell you something about, you see, when you're in opposition, you have to hold the government to account. And you have to challenge the government. And you have to show what the government doing, the deficiencies of it, and really do it. And when we were in government, in opposition, I think we did it well. Hold them to account and to challenge them and to put the pressure on them, especially from a policy perspective. But this opposition has a different approach. This is not UWP of old. This is a different UWP now. And it's not based on any deep analytical understanding of issues and how to respond to it. So the same Henley, and let me just remind you, in 2015, October, we passed the legislation. The CIP in St. Lucia opened in January 2016. By March 2016, the same Henleys, the CEO then issued a statement saying that the St. Lucia CIP was the worst CIP ever. I can give you a copy of the article. I can never get rid of that article. 3 months after we started, 3 months, we had not received one application yet, but we were deemed to be the worst CIP because they did it for obvious reasons. We lost the elections in July, in June 2016. Now, we came back in July 2021. We met Henley as a partner. They were not a partner in 2016 when we lost. They were critical of our program. We continue to work with them. Why? Because Henley, like you said, is an international organization, a very good reputation, forget politics, whatnot. And we continue to work with them. And we work with them as professionals. And we continue, and we will continue to work with them. And they made their assessment and rated St. Lucia top 3, joint top 3 CIP. For the same opposition now to almost blast that ranking and decry it, just exposes them. But they don't want anything good for St. Lucia. Let me tell you the extent to which you went. How many of you saw the recent TikTok clip basically saying, don't come to St. Lucia, why you must not come to St. Lucia? Now, sometimes I want you to be analytical. If a visitor, listen to all the other clips of people saying the good experiences they had in St. Lucia. You saw their face, you heard their natural voice, saying they went this place, they went that place, the fun time they had. That clip, which is critical of St. Lucia, has a computer-generated voice. Nobody's face is shown. But listen to that clip carefully. It's a computer-generated voice. And you can actually hear the editing, because it doesn't flow naturally. Now, what does that tell you? Somebody manufactured that clip and made sure it went viral. Now, why would you want to hurt St. Lucia like this? When you hurt like this, you're not hurting us, you're not hurting the government per se. Yes, you are hurting the government, but worse, you're hurting the people of St. Lucia. So let's fight our battles during the parliamentary debate coming up. Look at the numbers for tourism arrivals. Tell us we are doing something wrong, but the numbers are going up. So how do you tell somebody they're doing something wrong and the numbers going up? Look at investment in the industry. Investment is increasing in the industry. Only yesterday, the Prime Minister was part of a salting ceremony for a new Rodney Bay Marina waterfront. Yesterday. Investment is going up in this country. Tell us we are doing something wrong because investment is going up. Unemployment is at almost historic low. Tell us we are doing something wrong because unemployment is going down. So stand up and criticize the policy. Tell us, look, what you're doing for jazz is wrong. Well, they said they said they will stop jazz again if they come back into power. So they said, tell us Carnival is wrong. Tell us La Rose, La Marguerite is wrong. Show us the faults of what we are doing. That's how you do it. You hold a government to account and to show the deficiencies and the failings of the government. That's the debate we want in the House. That's the debate we want. Not Elaine, a secret trip for 1 week in London. They summon them to Washington. That has no validity. At the end of the day, people elect government to deliver. They elect government to solve their problems. We're not perfect. We're not doing everything right. But then show us what we're doing wrong and let's debate it. And that's what we want, to have a debate with them to show.
Okay. One last CIP question. You mentioned a housing project being funded by CIP. Is that the same Casabah condo thing or two different things?
In fact, now that you said Casabah, they actually have 2 developers and 1 done by National Housing with CIP funds. So we actually have 3 of housing projects through CIP that will be announced. And if all goes well and things sort themselves out, we might even have a couple more to announce soon.
Okay, my question is, this is against all the allegations coming from the opposition and from MSR. Is St. Lucian's citizenship being undersold? As you have
Now,
accused?
that's a good question. Now, give me a chance and just explain something to you. And I said so in the address in Dubai. I said so, and you will get a copy of the address. You will get both audio and the written address. St. Lucia does not support any promoter advertising investments to St. Lucia below our stated minimum. Any promoter that does it, we will not do business with them. That's very clear. Likewise, we do not support any promoter advertising St. Lucia as having visa-free access to the UK or to the EU. Our program is not on the basis of visa-free access or any low price. Any promoter that does that, we will have issues with them. And in all our contracts with developers, we say to them, this is not allowed. And any promoter they are dealing with, they must dissuade them from doing it. That's the reality. Now, everybody who talks about underselling, I want them to understand the industry and how it works. And why are people talking about this underselling? Because when you understand the industry, you realize you don't have control over that as a country. You don't. If somebody wants to advertise, minimum investment in St. Lucia is 80,000, when they know it's 100,000 they must pay in St. Lucia, but they're advertising it as 80. We don't support those marketing tricks. We don't. We maintain anyone we are informed is involved in false marketing of investments to St. Lucia, whether in real estate, whether in CIP, whether in financial services, any sector. We will not want to do business with them. Plain and simple.
Okay, I have 2 last questions. One is related to the offices. I think these CIP offices now relocated, coming out of a government building and going to, I guess, a facility which will be rented, right? Against the backdrop of what we would have heard in the estimates and how much of government expenditure goes towards things like, rental of office space, Was this a prudent decision? I know that there is space at the Bois d'Orge mall that is open for you, for the government to have their space, their offices there. So why was the decision taken to move the offices and out of a space where they're not paying any rent?
They're not paying. Why are they not paying?
Here, I'm talking about.
Anywhere you go, you have to pay.
Are these not government buildings, all these buildings?
No, that's not. This is the only government building.
This one?
Yeah.
Okay.
The other buildings you have to pay rent. And by the way, the rental that Alan Chasney negotiated for the Bois d'Orge is among the most expensive rent anywhere in St. Lucia that the government of St. Lucia will have to pay. Well, it's already paying. We are paying for it already.
So
And-
why didn't you move there?
No, because CIP wanted its dedicated space and the amount of space they wanted. I mean, CIP have thousands of files and documents. They needed to have their own dedicated space. And they had already made arrangements to move into that building before it was even finished because they wanted that space. In fact, my personal view is that the Bois d'Orge space should not even be occupied by government offices. How do you take government workers? Well, maybe I should not go down that road. But, you know, the space at Bois d'Orge, for me, should be used for commercial reasons. You know,
Yeah, last week the High Court, the appeals court actually made a judgment in this supposed case that the opposition leader had against the controller. He lost that appeal. It was dismissed. Again, he is saying that he is going to appeal the CCJ, appeal to the CCJ. What are your thoughts on that?
he's going to appeal to the CCJ.
Yeah.
The leader of the opposition, Alan Chasney, will appeal to the CCJ. The same CCJ? Nah. Him appeal to the Privy Council. Because it cannot be the same CCJ that he criticized, that he said we should not have signed on to, that he says never will always favor governments, that he said all those things about the CCJ, but then he will appeal to the CCJ. And by the way, do you know the first case from St. Lucia that went to the CCJ was Guy Joseph interlocutory motion, and he won, you know. He actually won the case before the CCJ. That was the first case from St. Lucia that went to the CCJ, the same CCJ that they said they will never win in the CCJ. But coming to the matter at hand, I don't know how many of you have read the judgment, but when I read the judgment, I actually smiled. I really had a good smile. And not a smile because he lost, but it was a smile for what I have been through on this matter, what I have been through. And I know the day will come when Alan Chasney will pay dearly, not before me, but before the God above, for his vindictiveness, his maliciousness, and his nastiness. Trust me, the day must come. An individual cannot act in such a manner and not expect to face his tribulations. Because I know, and the evidence showed clearly, a vehicle I paid for, he, Alan Chasney, actually said on the program, yes, I paid for it with my money, but I gave it to the High Commission as a gift and I took it back. So therefore I stole it. Think about that. And you want to persistently come after me that I must pay for a vehicle I bought. And that we've been over this matter, but they insist, and they've been trying it for years, to come at me. He and his acolytes and surrogates will never give up. And trust me, every time they come, I smile even broader. Because I'm very focused on what my job is, what I have to do, and I know myself. And none of them can define me for who I am. So I read it and I just smile. When you read what the judges wrote, but now he wants to go to the CCJ, I wish him the very best. Somehow or the other, I think I'm tormenting him. So the more it goes on, is the more I'm enjoying my torment of him. So he can continue. He'll come up with another issue, and I will smile at him and torment him even more. Because Alan Chasney is the biggest disaster that ever happened to St. Lucia politics. But that's another story. It's back by my house. Yeah. If you want it, you can get it. I mean,
Last week, the Prime Minister made an an invitation to the Swizzle MP to join your government. As the Deputy Prime Minister, will you be open to welcoming Felix?
Well, Bradley, I've known Bradley ever since our, I think, almost teenage years. I've known him for many, many, many years. And, you know, if the Prime Minister invited him, then I support the invitation. I mean, I've known Bradley. I mean, I don't, there's nothing I can say against Bradley except that he's on the wrong side. I fear for him every day that he's getting more and more tinted, you know, by what exists around him, and that he should avoid intensifying his interactions with those bad elements in the United Workers' Party, because unwittingly he might end up sounding like them, which would be really bad for him. But I think Bradley knows his way home anytime, so leave it at that.
So Minister, last week the Prime Minister indicated that submission did the best of March in tourism. Can you elaborate and tell us about this?
Well, you'll be hearing a lot about it tomorrow in the Prime Minister's statement, and certainly when I speak, hopefully on Friday. But 2024 so far is proving to be the best year on record, and let's knock on wood that we have no mishaps. But we are doing even better than 2019. I believe we're up 7% on 2019 already, which is very good. And we have jazz coming up in May, cricket in June, carnival in July, which is proving this carnival looks like it's going to be our biggest carnival ever, from all indications. And then we have more cricket in September. We have, Beach Festival in November. We have Creole Heritage in October. So if all goes well, and we're expecting this year to be our best year on record. And once we start off with the GPH development, we have so much coming on. The Grand Hyatt in Roselle. St. Lucia is going to be really enjoying a very special period in terms of economic development. So, yes, you'll be hearing a lot more about it tomorrow and on Friday.
Minister, we're hearing that we're almost sold out for jazz. How are we looking?
I know we're looking very good. I must tell you, last year was phenomenal for jazz. We had never sold so many tickets as we did last year. And I think we're going to break the record this year again. From all indications, it's going to be an extra special jazz. So anybody who's going to ask me for any free tickets or any complimentary, I'm not sure they're going to exist. So if you've not asked already, don't ask again. Don't ask. I think only Jerry, I promised tickets, But seriously, it's going to be a real special jazz festival. Kingdom Night also is doing really well. So, in fact, I'm going to take a few days off just for me to make sure I enjoy this jazz this year. I'm not a person who take days off and go on vacation or whatnot, but I'm taking vacation this year just to enjoy jazz on the square. I used to really love enjoying that on lunchtime, to go on the square and just hang out and just listen to music, get some good food and just lime. And as a minister, you don't really get a chance to enjoy that. So I am going to ask the Prime Minister to give me the week off. And I'm going to just enjoy the jazz like any ordinary St. Lucian. So when I see any one of you, I have to buy drinks on it. Yeah. Have we covered everything? Yeah? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Hilaire. I now welcome Honorable Alfred Prosper, Minister for Agriculture, Fisheries, Food Security and Rural Development.
Good morning. I just wanted to take this time to inform the public or to give an update on the situation with the availability of boxes for our banana and plantain farmers. I know this has been a serious disruption in the sector over the last few weeks, but I just want to inform the public that last week, Tuesday, we received 8,500 boxes from St. Vincent, and that was through Winera. But we also received a container comprising 12,000 boxes from the US that also arrived last week, Tuesday. So currently we have approximately 20,500 boxes available for our farmers. I know 2 exporters did export bananas out of St. Lucia last week, But this week we are expected to receive another 17,000 boxes coming from the DRO. And those boxes were stuck in Jamaica a few weeks ago. Fortunately, those boxes are expected to arrive in St. Lucia by Thursday or Friday this week. So I'm very happy our farmers are now relieved of the pressure and challenge that they faced over the last few weeks with the bananas. And I also want to make an announcement that as of last week, we began the distribution of 500 1,000 gallon water tanks that would go to our livestock farmers. And that is under the World Bank Food and Nutrition Insecurity Project. So our farmers have begun receiving those water tanks, and we are hoping in the next few weeks we'll be distributing another 500 water tanks to our crop farmers. As you can see, we are going through a serious drought period now, and at this time of year it's not very comfortable for farmers because a lot of our farmers are not close to a water source, and as a result they have to depend on the rain. We are hoping that those water tanks will encourage our farmers to do what we call water harvesting and storage. Just on Sunday last week, a team of experts from my ministry left for the US to select a number of new bloodlines we are bringing into St. Lucia, and that includes swine, goat, and sheep. And that is a total of 154 animals that are expected to arrive into St. Lucia by end of May. So we've engaged a buyer in the US, and now we are going through the selection process. So a team of experts from my ministry are currently in the US to do the selection, hoping that we can get those animals into St. Lucia and we can really get the Follett Agricultural Station in Miku operationalized as soon as possible. We are also in the process of constructing an artificial insemination lab at Follett, where we will use some of those new breeds to be able to boost the livestock sector. So this is good news coming from our farmers amidst all the challenges and the disruption that they face in recent times. We still have a lot more for farmers and fishers under the program because, as I mentioned before, new ice machines, we're going to have a lot more fisheries aggregating device, what we call the FADs, for our fishers. We are going to begin very shortly a farm labor program to assist our farmers with labor, as we know that's a serious challenge for them. So there are lots to come under what we call the CIP, or the World Bank project, which I do believe will have a very, very significant impact on the agricultural sector.
Yes, sir. Since you're on the line of livestock, we know that the production of the meats, and processing of it is also important. We know before of the abattoir, which was shut down.
Meat
or whatever.
processing
The meat processing.
yes.
What is the latest update on this? What is the meat processing plant like for St. Lucia?
Well, initially the thinking was to use the meat processing plant or facility to boost up, local consumption of our meat. But you will recall that that was built by the Taiwanese government, and during the reign of the last administration, that area was earmarked for what we call, in fact, that land was set aside for this project. I can't remember, this horse racing. DSH, that's right. And on my assuming the position of Minister for Agriculture, I did a tour of the facility, and what we realized is that a lot of the equipment that was in there had disappeared. As to how and when, that I cannot tell. But my ministry is very concerned about this facility, and I do believe there is tremendous potential because it's an opportunity for us to be able to increase our livestock production and to do a lot of the processing that this facility has the capacity to do. So it's something that we're looking at, but we have not been able to come to arrive at a conclusion as to what are the next steps.
So the government still owns that facility?
It still belongs to the government of St. Lucia, yes.
What is the current policy when it comes to the purchase of chicken here in St. Lucia? Because we understand that, I know there was a certain clause or whatnot that
28% local
had-
consumption.
we have.
Is that what you're asking?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, what I know is that you can buy chicken outside of St. Lucia, but you must buy 28% local. So we have a lot of exporters, and obviously, the chicken that we export, a lot of it cannot be done. So we will not be able to get wings in St. Lucia because we don't have enough chicks to be able to give us that quantity. Some of the cuts, we cannot do it here, so we have to import. But the policy is you can import, but you must buy 28% of local chicken. Now, my government is very concerned about the availability of food and food security, and we are now in touch with the government of Brazil with the possibility of importing chicken from Brazil. We submitted a request to the Ministry of Agriculture in Brazil last year, indicating some of the questions that we want to find out. And we had to wait a whole year to get that information. We got it sometime early this year, and we have a team now that is ready to go to Brazil to do the research and to be able to ascertain that the quality and everything is right before we can begin to import from Brazil. But there is this whole CARICOM agreement where in the past you could have done it from between country and country or country to country, but now we have to go for the CARICOM because the CARICOM is involved in ensuring that all the countries benefit in the same way. So that is what is causing the delay. But I'm hoping that if we can get chicken into St. Lucia from Brazil at a very, very low cost, that would be beneficial to our populace.
Right now, all our chicken comes. Where does our chicken come from?
From the U.S. A lot of it comes from the U.S.
Okay. Is there any truth to the fact that you said 28%? That then certain entities have been given permission to import as much as they want? They could bypass that 28%?
Well, again, that comes with information. I am not in a position to say, yes, they are importing more than what they are buying locally. But what I know is that the policy is that you must purchase 28% local.
Okay, so I'm going to assume that there would have been a needs assessment conducted by the Ministry of Agriculture on the decision to have such large importation of different produce and livestock. What exactly was the issue that's causing the ministry to be importing the livestock right now?
Well, I think all countries, you mean the voluntary agricultural
115.
station? Well, remember we were at Beausejour in Beaufort, and we had to be relocated to the Grand Riviere Saint Louis farm. We got there for about 100, close to 150 animals. But the conditions that these animals were actually faced out there was not conducive. So when we brought them back to the station, we realized a lot of them were not healthy. And as a result of that, it would not make sense to be managing a population of animals that will do nothing in terms of assisting or helping, develop the sector. So that is why we decided to bring in new bloodlines. And this is not the first time. I'm sure sometime in 2016, 2017, the previous government brought in a special breed of goats, and that was in high demand. Up to now, we have persons who are actually invested in it. So we thought it was necessary, since we have a new station, to get those new bloodlines and to organize what we call an artificial insemination program. So our farmers, our livestock farmers now will be able to benefit from actually going to Volet to actually purchase whatever breed that they like, whether it's swine, goat, sheep.
And also the farm in Union, the bronze farm, what's happening?
What's that?
I'm not sure if I'm saying it correctly, but the bronze farm in Union.
Okay.
Across from the private school, what's happening?
Well, I really wish I could give you some level of comfort, but it's something that has been a concern to me as the Minister for Agriculture. And just last month, we had a site visit at Union because we are looking at a location at Union for us to establish some shade houses, or what we call greenhouses. And that was a concern raised. We are under the UBEC program. We have set aside some funding to upgrade the facility because it's really not what I would want to see, especially given our situation with food security, etc. But it is something that we are working on to get it back to what it was.
Back to bananas.
I like how you said back to bananas.
Almost almost every year we have concerns with the banana industry, whether it's a tropical storm or fertilizer. So you'd understand that the industry there's always something going on. It's always dynamic. It's just never staying still. What are the ministry's plans moving forward to really stabilize the sector so that, let's say there is a storm tomorrow, there is an action plan right away so we can get it back on its feet without the downtime, stuff like that, plans for the future?
Well, if you understand, a banana takes 9 months between planting and harvesting. So even if you have a hurricane today, there is no way you're going to get production or harvesting until maybe 5-6 months, because you'll have some other plants, the shoots that will develop. It may not take the entire 9 months, but planting a banana tree in the ground is about 9 months. Now, the banana industry has faced challenges for years and decades. I'm sure you remember the days when farmers would have to dump bananas because the capacity, because we had a lot more bananas than what was required. Farmers would go to the docks and they would not have been able to sell the bananas. You remember the issue of Windfresh collapsing under the previous administration. We have natural disasters impacting the sector every year, thereabout. And the banana industry, the plantain subsector, these are very vulnerable to the natural disasters, hurricanes, etc. Then we have the issue of climate change. And the banana industry is not only the case for St. Lucia banana industry, but all over the world you face challenges that you have to deal with. But the importance of the industry is what we have to also consider to be important. The impact it's having in the rural areas. Our farmers depend on it for the survival. It has done wonders for the country in terms of infrastructure, education, and housing in particular. I'm sure you remember the days when we had so many FARs on the road, because farmers were buying vehicles almost every week because of bananas. But we are faced with those challenges with the banana industry because, remember, we had a very reliable market in the UK. Right now, it's very challenging for us to export to the UK because of the length of time it takes from St. Lucia to get to the UK and the process it has to go through, the ripening facility, before it gets to the shelves. So by that time, a lot of the quality issues will surface. Unlike when we had the Gist boat, we had our ripening facility in the UK, and things were going very well for us. But unfortunately, that collapsed in 2019. Now, we are struggling with a market in the region. We have the markets, but when you have a natural disaster that affected the farmers for 6 to 7 months, and the persons who depend on the bananas for their survival, for their business, they can't wait on St. Lucia 5 months after to get bananas. They have to go elsewhere. And this is why the Dominican Republic and Suriname are now supplying some of the countries that we were supplying with bananas. They are now supplying those countries with bananas. So those issues, we have to deal with them and see how we can really address them. But the good thing for us is that in the absence of the UK, we still have the potential for our bananas to be sold in the region. But again, to complete your question, insurance, agricultural insurance is important, because if the farmer has some form of mechanism in place, as soon as he gets affected, the next week or so, he can get funding to help him continue. And I want to take the opportunity to thank the farmers, the banana farmers in particular. They know their role, and as soon as a natural disaster hits or anything, the next day you see those very farmers are back on their farms, replanting, digging, and doing everything. So I must really thank them for that, because it shows that they have a passion for this industry and the kind of work that they do. But really and truly, there are challenges And we have to deal with those challenges as much as possible to ensure we stabilize the industry.
Just briefly, the wallet facility, can you just say where is it located, and some of the services, the staffing, how accessible is it to the farmers?
Well, actually, the wallet facility is less than a mile from the highway in Miku, and it's along that road called, can't remember the name, but it's that same road going to John Compton's farm, former Prime Minister. So it's just about less than a mile, half a mile away from the main road. That is just before you get the gas station, the first gas station in Miku, coming from the north. Right now, we only have about 5 to 8 members of staff, because they're taking care of the animals. We are developing the infrastructure there in a big way, and we've built a goat pen, a sheep pen. We have already established the office block. We have already built or constructed the roads. So a lot has been done, and the services that will be rendered to the farmers will be very beneficial to them, because they can go there and buy, some of the new bloodlines we have. But we will have a program that will really benefit them and actually help to boost the sector. But it's not very far from the highway. It's just about half a mile into that motorable road in Wallet. That's it.